Haley, welcome back to the show. I'm so excited to welcome you back to talk about motherhood and entrepreneurship because, girl, I be watching your stories and I'm just like, what? How is this possible? Like, you are out here running a whole ass financial coaching company. You now have your husband working with you and you're raising three littles. I remember seeing you at FinCon with the stroller and I'm just like, this woman is fucking goals. I mean, I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, for folks who have not met Haley, her and her husband, Justin, are two of my favorite humans in the personal finance space. You can check out their podcast, The Price of Avocado Toast, wherever you listen to this podcast. And I'm going to link their original episode into the show description because it's a good one. So, Haley, let's start at the beginning. You and your husband were teachers and you have literally made a career out of helping first littles and now adults with various things. What did that look like as a parent, working as a teacher and then building this side hustle?
So I was only a parent while I was teaching for like 6 months. Then I just went and started my business. So when I started our podcast, that was unintentionally like the beginning of entrepreneurship for us. We didn't ever envision that developing into any form of business or income. It was just kind of a side hobby. And we started that with a 6-month-old. And I was on maternity leave. So I hadn't actually even returned to work. My husband had, but it was COVID. It was lockdown. So we were both home. So he was working, but it was from home. And it was kind of a joke. Anyone who had children in school during that like later part of the school year of 2020 understands that the distance learning was really hard and no one was really doing much of anything. So that was kind of the introduction to all of it for me. And then I went back and taught for 6 months virtually. And I have not been back in person since prior to even having children. So I don't even know what like balancing life as a teacher would be like with kids because I didn't actually do that in person. I feel like doing it virtually was a whole different thing than it was for people who are doing it in person.
Wow. Okay. So was your goal to like not go back or did it just kind of happen?
Yes and no. I recall frequently being like, oh, what do I do? Like, how can I extend my maternity leave? How can I stay out forever? What can I do to make these adjustments to make sure that I can be home and be present? But then also having this internal battle of, I don't really want to be a stay-at-home mom. There's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom. It's a really hard job, but I didn't desire to be a stay-at-home parent. But how could I kind of marry these things together with having a career, having a job of some sort while also being present? And I remember being on my maternity leave, just talking to all of the stay-at-home parents that I knew. I literally would call them and say, hey, can I talk to you? I want to pick your brain and talk about how you decided to actually step away from your career for this period of time. Or I talked to people who had taken 8 years away from their career and then chose to go back and ask them, like, what did this look like for you when you had this internal battle of like, ugh, I don't want to go back, but I don't want to necessarily step away forever. And through all of that, it did just kind of happen. I went back for a 6-month period and then I was done, but it wasn't intentionally like forever. It was kind of just, well, let me just stay home with my babies and we'll see. And a little context for everybody listening, I had 3 kids in 3.5 years. So
That shit's crazy.
Our first 2 are 1.5 years apart. So when I went back for 6 months of teaching, I was halfway through my pregnancy with my second child. And I was like, well, how the hell am I going to afford childcare for 1 kid, let alone now there's 2? So, well, I guess I'm just going to figure this out and stay home. So it really wasn't like an intentional thing until it developed into, okay, now I know that I don't want to go back full-time in person. So what can I do? And then it developed from there.
Got it. Okay. Before you had your first child, what did the vision look like when you and your husband would talk about like what parenthood was going to look like or what you wanted it to look like? What was the plan?
I wanted to have a handful of kids in a handful of years. I literally wanted to have I wanted 4. We agreed on if the third one was a boy, we'd be done. And the third one is a boy, so we're done. But I wanted a larger family. I come from being an only child. So Of course, I want the opposite of what my childhood was. I actually had a great childhood being an only child. I just wanted a bunch of children for some reason. And so I feel like I had the blinders on, and we just went and had children according to our plan. And I want to add that like that was the vision. And I fully understood that fertility journeys and the entire journey of parenting can look so different from person to person, or even pregnancy to pregnancy. I know so many people that have struggled with like secondary infertility, where they struggle having the second child after they had no problem with the first one. And so knowing all of that and knowing so many people that had to go through various forms of fertility treatment, I figured, well, this might not happen as fast as I wanted to. So let's just try to have these kids as fast as we can and see what happens, because it might happen immediately or it could take a couple of years. So that was kind of a vision loosely. Like we knew we wanted several kids. We just didn't know how fast it would happen.
Yeah. And then from a career standpoint, did you guys talk about, like you were going to stay home or change careers or like anything of that sort?
Janice, absolutely not. I was listening to your episode yesterday and I was like, damn, you're so prepared. We were not. And I was 27 when I had my first daughter, and I was done having kids by the time I turned 30. And we didn't really discuss anything other than, well, we'll figure it out when we get there. We were both raised by single moms. So I think naturally we defaulted to, we'll figure it out, which I was listening to your episode and I was like, oh, we definitely didn't talk about that. We were definitely not prepared. We were just on the realm of like, let's just do it. And, parents figure it out always, but no conversation at all.
Okay. No, I mean, I think that's real. And I appreciate you sharing that honesty, because there is that old adage that's like, you're never really prepared for parenthood. But I do think it's probably a good idea to just like have some conversations, just because once they're here, right? And then it's just like, oh, fuck. Now what are we going to do? So, you know what I mean? So hopefully y'all tuning in will get some inspiration about conversations that you should have prior to parenthood, and even like as you're going through it too, because what you perceive might be your experience might be completely different, and you have to learn the art of the pivot, I think is very important. Financially, did you talk about anything with regards to money? Like, because kids are not cheap. I think of the latest statistics I've seen is like it takes like $300,000 thereabouts to like raise a child to the age of 17. So you're doing this times 3. So you basically need like $1 million. So what are those money conversations look like?
They just weren't. They weren't there. And they were not there at all. We were really just on the YOLO train of, we'll just figure it out. And I know that you're going to link our previous episode. So if people want to listen to the extensive story of our background, they can do that with the other episode. But we were drowning in debt. We had no money at the time when we first had our first child. So it was very much, well, we have this kid coming. We need to get our shit together, because whether we like it or not, she's coming in December and we have to change this. We have to change this for our kid. So the money conversations we had were really just under the, what we're doing right now isn't working. So we have to change this as fast as we can so that our kids are not suffering. And that was kind of the perspective that we took into it, because we had so much debt and we wanted to get it done so fast. My husband went and took on second and third jobs, and his teaching salary that he was taking home after insurance and everything was being deducted out was like $2,400 a month. Our mortgage at the time was $2,200. And we had this realization, wow, what happens when we have to pay $1,200 for childcare? We can barely pay our bills right now. Like, this is really not going to work. So we went like balls to the wall with paying our debt off as fast as we could so that we would have some extra freed up money for the cost of kids in general. And because we were having children in COVID lockdown and we were working at home, it made things a lot easier. We didn't have to pay for childcare for a really long time. We just didn't have to, because we were both home, and it made things easier. But the conversations just were not there. It's really funny. I look back and I'm like, what did we do? Like, no regrets, but damn, we put blinders on and just, I don't even know how I started my business.
That's literally going to be my next question. I'm like, how does this happen? So, you start your podcast, you start garnering some attention. I assume people start reaching out on social media and whatnot. And they're just like, oh, I want to work with you guys. Can you help us get out of debt? And then all of a sudden you have like an accidental business. Is that pretty much how it went?
Yeah. Basically. So I went back to teaching for 6 months and then I stopped teaching and I figured, well, maybe eventually I'll start like doing some sort of coaching or something on the side because I really liked distance learning when I was teaching all the kids through the computer. It worked really well for me. And it seems like all the other teacher friends that I had, they hated it. They didn't like working virtually and being on Zoom, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was wonderful. So how can I marry these two things together with enjoying being on Zoom and working from home and having my cake and eating it too with being with my kid? I mean, I have videos of me teaching on Zoom with all 30 of my 6th graders with my kid in a little bouncer. And she's like bouncing right next to me. And I was like, this is so cool. I can kind of do all these things that I wanted. And it was a very sweet time. But then I realized this isn't going to be forever. How can I do all of this all together? So that's kind of where my coaching business was born. At the end of our first season of our podcast, my husband announced on the podcast, Haley's going to start her financial coaching business at the beginning of season 2. And I was like, all right, we're going. Just push me off the cliff here. And because I wasn't working at the time, I didn't have to do the like taper into self-employment. I already wasn't working. So I just went off a cliff, full force into business ownership. I had no idea what I was doing. I remember making an Instagram story. This is really funny. I should actually look for it because it's like ingrained in my soul. I remember being like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I want to help some people with their money. If you need help with your money, I'm your girl. You can pay me $100 a month for 3 months as my like beta trial person. And we'll do this together. We'll learn. And maybe I'll take like 3 people. I took on 12 clients initially. And so it went real quick. From day one, I onboarded 12 clients and I was like, all right, we're doing this. And I charged way not enough, but I was like, we're going to do this together. And that was kind of how it got established in the beginning. But it came from a place of, I have no idea what I'm doing, everybody. We're going to learn this together. And I think people really appreciated that transparency of, no one knows what they're doing. Everyone sucks when they get started with something new.
That's an amazing story. I freaking love that. And it really just speaks to the power of just putting yourself out there. You know, I think a lot of people just overthink like, when do I post the first announcement that I'm doing the business? And like, when's the right time to launch? It's just like, yo, just tell people you're doing some shit and let's see what happens. It's really that simple. How many of your clients were like people that you knew versus like people off the internet that you'd never met in your life, like the initial ones?
I knew like one, and several were like my own personal Instagram and Facebook friends, but I had never met them in person. So we had been part of various different communities for several years, and I felt like I knew them. I felt like they were my friends, but I didn't know them actually at all until I started working with them. So it was very much based on social media from the jump.
I love that. Yeah. And that's a good reminder that your paid customers are typically going to be like people that you've never met versus I think a lot of people go into it thinking that their friends or their family members or like people they've known forever are going to be their first clients. And typically they're not. And that's okay. Like we can't take offense to that because your family member is not necessarily your ideal client. So you have to do the work of figuring out like who those people are.
I mean, not at all. I remember people in the beginning, family, friends, being like, who do you think you are, respectfully? They didn't say respectfully. Who do you think you are to start a business like this? Like, what qualifies you to do this?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, all right, watch. Like, okay, I heard you loud and clear, but you're not who I'm targeting. You're not my ideal client. And you're skeptical, and I'm going to prove you wrong. And I got a lot of that pushback from people around me because they didn't understand what I was trying to create something that like existed, but it only existed in this space if you knew that it existed. Financial coaching wasn't some widely known thing for just the everyday people that weren't in the personal finance space. So it was a very foreign concept for a lot of people to be like, wait, you're leaving teaching to go start this thing? You just had a whole bunch of debt. What do you mean you're going to help people with this? This seems very weird, but your ideal person initially often is you, former versions of you.
Absolutely. Speaking of cheerleaders and people who actually are like steering you in the direction that you want to go, your husband has been an incredible cheerleader in this space. And I want you to speak to women who have partners who maybe just aren't on board. That they'd be like, you're leaving teaching to do what? Like, why? What advice do you have for people who are navigating that?
This is hard. because I actually haven't ever had to deal with this with my husband because he was so supportive from the beginning. But I think that when we can communicate with our partner why this thing we want to do is important, it's going to help them get on board. And I think that pushback that I received from some family members, sometimes you get that from your partner. Like, who do you think you are to do this? Why would you do this? This isn't responsible, or whatever that discomfort might be from them. And you might have to do a little proving to them. But I think in return, you end up proving to yourself, because it actually had nothing to do with proving to those other people that I was going to do this. It was proving to myself that I don't need to listen to you. I'm going to do this anyway. And I actually had one of my original clients, the one person that I knew personally, she cut my hair also. So I was in her hair chair, getting my hair done early on. And I was thinking of signing up for this mastermind course thing. And I was like, I just don't know. I don't think Justin's going to get it. He was fully on board with me having my business and starting everything, but I just didn't think he was going to support me investing in this form of coaching when I didn't have the income really to be investing in that at that time. Financially, I don't know if it was the best choice, but I needed some support to just like do it. And my friend said, who owns this business? You or him? And I was like, okay, heard. It's not his deal. It's my deal. And I'm going to just do it. So I came home that day and I said, hey, you might not get this. You might not understand, but I'm going to do this. And it took a little bit of, I'm actually not asking your permission to do this. That's not always the best advice for people when you're doing life with someone and you really want their support. But sometimes you do need to just make the move, prove yourself and other people wrong, and just do it.
I absolutely love that advice. Sometimes they're not going to get it, and it's not for them to get, that's all right. Okay, I want you to take me behind the scenes of like what your days would look like raising little children and doing this business while your husband is still being a teacher. Please take me behind the scenes. I need to understand.
It's such a blur.
Did you shower regularly? Like, were you eating?
So it's an interesting period of time. Let me also say we didn't have childcare for the first year of my business. So it was... We were just doing it. People have strong opinions about this, but we were extremely pro sleep training from day one. From day one, we read the 12 Hours by 12 Weeks book, and all three of my children slept according to the schedule that I put them on. I have a firm, this is kind of controversial, to each their own on whether people agree with this, but I believe that the baby comes into my life. I don't come into their life. They're born into my life. And I am the one in control of how I want to do certain things. If I want to be able to still travel, I need to bring the baby with me. I'm not going to just adapt to being a 6-month-old. The baby's going to enter my world and do things with me. So we sleep trained super hardcore, and it worked great and allowed us to, on the minute, be able to do certain things, knowing for certain they would be sleeping. All that being said, I met with clients when my babies were sleeping. I had the 18-month-old and the newborn. I started my business with a 2-month-old and 19 months. It's a blur. The whole thing is just hard to think back that far, but I had them on the same nap schedule, and I would look back and I would get on my client call and it'd be nap time and we'd be good to go. And boy, I look back at that now, I'm like, what? There was no disturbances? How did they not wake up? Like, that's just wild. The fact that that actually worked, it was they wouldn't wake up until it was time.
It's hysterical. I need to know more about this sleep training. We are going to talk later.
It's not too late, girl. It's a whole thing. But that's how I kind of got anything done. It was when the baby was sleeping during naps. And then I would build my business with my clients as I went. It was very much like with the people. My people helped me build this. I would use their feedback, make tweaks. We would figure out what worked, what didn't work, and then create it as I went. I never started this knowing fully what I was doing. I didn't have a full program. It developed along the way. And I'm so glad that I took that approach, because I think that I learned a lot about myself. I learned what works and what doesn't work. And I actually got like the feedback from people directly about maybe doing some changes. And I think that as a business owner, that helped me be a lot more adaptable to things that might not go according to plan. And that's okay.
I love that advice. I don't think there's enough folks who like do that iteration process and like really gather information as you are building out an offer and testing it out. Like that's the importance of doing surveys and testimonials and things like that. Like you need to know if your shit's working because there's nothing more powerful than a happy client as far as marketing tool. So at what point do you retire your husband from his teaching career and have him join the ranks of your business now full time? Like how far into this process are we at this point?
So let's see. I think I had my business for about a year and a half, and my mother-in-law died unexpectedly. My husband's mom died unexpectedly. She was 67, and we had this big aha moment of like, well, life is fragile. We don't know how much time we have here. Our kids are very young. I was expecting our third child, and we really wanted to figure out how we could move closer to our people. We wanted to be near our friends and our family so that we could have that time. And so we started looking at the numbers, and my husband wasn't bringing home that much money in the grand scheme of things. He was bringing home like $4,000 as a teacher for the whole entire month. And to some people, that's a whole lot of money. And to other people, it's not a lot of money. But for us, I think my perspective shifted when I started working and realizing, I can actually make way more money. So when we looked at like, we only had to replace $4,000, game on. Like, let's do this. And at that point in time, I was already making 5 figures a month in my business. So we were able to kind of do the calculations and figure out how bringing him on really wasn't going to be that hard with the income change. It was going to be just taking the leap and figuring it out. And as teachers, we could only make so much money. We can make as much money as we want as entrepreneurs, and we can have the work-life balance, and we can be home with all 3 of our kids before they go to school, and we can have the life that we want and design it and go as hard or as soft as we wanted. And we didn't want to go hard. We actually didn't desire to work, and make as much money as we could. We desired to find the enough number for us. And when we were able to find that, it felt like, okay, this is going to be doable. So the retiring him out was more like, can we do this? And let's give it a try. And if we can't do it, there's nothing wrong with him going back to being a teacher. Our worst scenario is everyone else's reality. And it's not even a bad scenario.
That's such an important thing to like keep in the back of your head, right? Because the fear that you're going to inevitably face when you're thinking about making this transition, it's just like, what do you have to lose? You just go back to the fucking job that you didn't like doing in the first place. But why not try this thing? And I really love your perspective on like, we only have to replace $4,000. Like running those numbers and really understanding like, what do you actually need to do versus having this super like nebulous goal that has like no real purpose. That's not going to serve you, right? So when you knew exactly what you need to replace, you can think about business strategies that are going to help you then generate that type of income. I want to take a peek behind like, as you were growing your business, how did you scale to the point where you were making 5 figures a month? Because that's something that fucking hashtag goals for anybody who's in business. What did that look like for you? Did you create some sort of offer that you could sell all over and over? Did you increase your prices? Like, how did you go about that?
I took on way too many clients.
That's real. That's real. And that's a mistake that all new business owners make. We just work more because we want to make more. And that's usually how we've been programmed to earn money.
I definitely started not charging enough and taking on way too many clients. At my peak, I think I had 55 one-to-one clients, like in a month. And most of them I saw twice a month. Like it was wild. And that was only sustainable for so long. And I remember hearing a lot of the people that I talked to in the personal finance space who were also running small businesses of some sort doing coaching say one-to-one coaching is going to burn you out, girl. You got to find a way to do something group-ish because this is not scalable or sustainable long-term. And I didn't get it until I hit the wall, until I was like, whoa. I get on a call with a client and I'd be like,
who are you again?
Yeah, like what's your, let me look at my notes again and recap. And I'd been with these people for like a year. It wasn't like I just met them. And that didn't feel good. It was out leveraging my own capacity, but also I wasn't able to show up as the coach that I wanted either. So what we did was we invested in our own financial coach and our own business coach, and we increased our rates and decreased the amount of time we see people and started seeing less people. And the balance is so much better. But initially it was like, go as hard as I can, see as many people as I can. And I will say this on record too, kind of work with whoever. And that was not necessarily the answer that I would recommend for everybody. If you can go a little slower, have a little bit more momentum to keep going on your journey, find the right fit for the people you're working with, it's going to feel better for everybody involved. But you kind of have to figure that out by working with some of the wrong people first as well. And I had a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think that's an important part of this whole process. Like, it's a must. It's not something that you can avoid. You have to kind of see what works, see what doesn't, see who you're attracting with your messaging, see what your offer is versus like who is connecting with what you're saying. All of that is really important. What kind of support do you have in your business as far as like personnel, systems, software? Like, how do you guys optimize your time?
So we have childcare now. We've recently adjusted it a little bit, but we were having our nanny come to our house to watch our kids for about 20, 25 hours a week. And that was game changer. That's the only way I could really focus on working the business, not just working with clients, but managing the business and being a business owner. I have my husband who manages the things I don't want to do. So he does all of our emailing. He does our social media. For a long time, we actually outsourced our social media as well. And that was super helpful. We have a podcast editor that we have who helps us with everything. We're definitely not doing this alone. And when we find that we need help on something, we're not afraid to invest in getting that help as well, because I'm only one person. And even when I brought on Justin to the business, we're only two people. We can only do so much. But that's like the biggest thing, having help in that way. But like with keeping organized, it's a work in progress. You know, we're using Google.
Yeah. Live and die by that Google Calendar. Oh my God. If it's not there, it's not happening.
Not at all.
I love it. Okay. So you guys live in a high cost of living area. You live in California. How does that play into how you run your business? Like, I know you mentioned being closer to family. Like, does family support factor into how you guys can manage things as well?
It doesn't. Family support, well, right now it does. I have my brother-in-law inside watching the kids. But for the most part, family support is more just like emotional support at this time. With both of us being home, we don't have to lean in on family as much as we did before. When it was just me full-time and I had 50 clients and Justin was teaching full-time, we lived near my mom and I had to use her and abuse her. I had to be like, Mom, I need you. And she'd be like, girl, you're going to have to pay me because I
know that's right, Mom. He's like, I already have my damn kids. I ain't here to be raising your damn kids.
I'm like, I can't do this on my own. She's like, you're the one that wanted to have all these kids this fast. I'm like, I can't even go to the chiropractor, Mom. I can't do anything without lugging them around. I go get my back adjusted, and then I have to put these kids all in their seats and it gets all messed up. So family was like clutch when it was just me. But when Justin joined the team, it really wasn't needed as much because we were both here doing it. But to speak on being in a high cost of living area, man, all I have to say is if we can do this in California and be self-employed people and our rent is almost $4,000, I think it's a testament of what people can do, because we help people with their budgeting and debt payoff, and it's so much more than the numbers as well. And one of the biggest objections that we see people coming across is feeling like the answer is only the numbers. I need to slice and dice everything, but you also need to figure out how you can enjoy your life while you're living it. And we are a really great example of that. There are certain things we definitely don't do because we live in a place where we pay $4,000 for our rent. And that's the cost. That's the thing that we are okay doing. And I see people from all across the United States. I see budgets all day long, and ours is like comparable to what other people are spending, even though we have such a high rent, because we are willing to do the give and take. And I think that we put that in our coaching as well with the people we're working with and in running a business, because with what we're doing with money management with people, I have to help people believe that they can do it too. And we were able to make this change and do the shifts for ourselves, which I think makes me literally feel like, well, if we can do this, you guys can too. And I promise it might not be comfortable all the time, but we can work it out. And I have no desire to ever leave California. We're staying here forever.
I hear you. Yeah. I mean, when you know that you are where you're meant to be, you have to find a way to make it work. And I really appreciate your perspective on like, you want to embody what you want your clients to become. So you have to be this confident, financially literate person who knows they can increase their income in an unlimited fashion, who knows that you can get out of debt, who knows that you can make change, because you can't be selling the dream that you haven't personally achieved. Did you get some side eyes from friends and family when they realized, oh shit, the whole family is going to be in on this business now? It's not just Haley.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that.
I think everyone was like, well, we'll see.
We will see.
We'll see what happens here. Janice, I don't think people, this pisses me off looking back. I don't think they took it seriously until Justin joined us.
Oh.
Because I don't think they took it seriously as like, oh, we're making money. Because I wasn't, whatever, I was making money quietly. I wasn't sitting here being like, I'm making $10,000 a month, we're good. But when my husband was able to leave, I think people were like, wait a minute, and you're moving back to Sonoma County? How are you guys going to do that? And it wasn't like we just had all of this money to be blowing on the business, but they saw like, well, clearly they have enough money to make this work or try to figure it out or have the faith that they can figure it out. And I think that that was when the change started to happen for most people, because the people that used to be the naysayers ask us for advice now. So that's pretty cool. But it was more just like, why would you both leave? You know, we used to have $130,000 of student loans. Why would we go get these master's degrees and then go work for ourselves at home and let them collect dust in the garage? But I still don't regret that because it got us here. But when you look like the traditional way of life, this is definitely leaving your safe pension and all of those things is not what people want to hear.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not what we do, apparently, but we do.
And I made the move earlier this year. I'm never returning back to teaching. I cashed out my pension, rolled it into an IRA. We're doing the thing. It doesn't exist anymore. And whew, that feels good to be like, okay, I'm all in on making this work. And who knows what this evolves into, but now I can see the potential of I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can build whatever I want. I built a business breastfeeding a baby on my Zoom calls with my clients and scheduling around nap time. I can do literally anything. And I think that when it comes back to moms building businesses, we are powerful. We can literally do anything. Just give us a little doubt and we will show you. I will show you.
I love that. Yeah. I wrote recently on Threads, like, I created a whole ass human being. There's not shit that you can tell me I can't do at this point. Honestly, we are fucking superheroes embodied. All right. So entrepreneurship is one of these endeavors that will inevitably force you to confront triggers, emotions, all the things. And I would argue that parenthood does the same thing. What has been the biggest lesson that you've learned about yourself, both as a businesswoman and as a mom?
I'm so glad you asked this. I recently just had a conversation with my mom. I apologized to her because I was like, I thought you were so bad with your money. I placed so much judgment on you. I thought you were the problem. I thought that we struggle because of you. I thought you weren't trying hard enough. And I was like, oh, man, that's really sad. But I didn't, I think little girls, we blame our moms for things sometimes when you don't totally get along with them. And I've got two of my own headstrong girls where I'm like, oh, they're me. Woo, we're getting the payback here, but in a beautiful way. And my mom worked so hard. And I don't think I saw what that was until I had my own kids. She busted her ass and things were hard. But she did everything she could with the resources she had. And she had no idea I was carrying that like judgment towards her. I thought my dad was good. I thought she was the one that was bad. And I got older. I did the flip. I started looking around. I'm like, oh, wait, Mom, you were not the problem here. And I'm so sorry that I ever placed that on you. She had no idea I even felt that way. But for me, it was, when you have your own kids and you see what you would do for them, it gives you a different insight into what your parents did for you or what they didn't do for you. Sometimes people have that same realization too of like, oh, I would literally die for my kids, but my parents weren't even willing to live for me. They weren't even willing to do these certain things. And I totally agree. When you have kids, you become a mom, you have this awakening of perspective shift to the real thing that your parents did or didn't do. And I had that majorly recently.
Yeah, that's real. What about in business?
In business, I just feel like I can do anything. And I feel like similarly to what you said about birthing a human, super similar. Like, it sounds scary until you do it. Being pregnant, stretching, having a baby get cut out of you, having a baby, like that just sounds so scary until you do it and you're like, oh, I can do anything. It sounds really scary starting a business too. But then you do it and it's done and you're like, oh, I can do it. I don't think I really faced any demons necessarily. It was more just like, I think they happened at the same time too, Janice. Like I had a bunch of kids while I was building this business and I didn't even know how to be a mom, but I didn't know how to build a business either. So I was like stumbling and fumbling and just kind of figured it out. And I've taken that approach. You are far more prepared than I was.
I'm also very risk averse, you know. I think it comes with just like the first gen eldest daughter. Fuck, like I can't afford for this not to work out. And also hypervigilance is absolutely a trauma response, y'all. So I own that identity. But, you know, I think back to all these like misconceptions I had about motherhood. And I think the biggest thing was like that we must be forced or resigned to the struggle as a mother, because that's just usually what we experienced as kids watching our moms. And I'm so inspired by you and the women who are going to be featured on this series, because that is not the only option. And now you have daughters who are watching you, you know, be a fucking superwoman and have this example of like being able to literally create out of thin air the life that you want and understanding the power of money and how you can manifest your dreams with it. So I want to close out this conversation by asking you, what do you hope your legacy is as a mom and as a business owner?
I hope my kids are able to see why we did certain things. I hope they're able to not be 32 apologizing to me. I made their lives horrible. But I hope that they can understand that we didn't do certain things so that we could spend a lot of time with them. And we maybe took the slow route, but intentionally. I hope that our legacy as a business is to just impact people and help change their lives. I truly love what I do. And I think that it's something that I want to find a way to do forever and not necessarily ever have to retire from. It's a really cool thing being able to help change people's lives with their finances. And I hope that our kids get a taste of that. You know, we talk to them about money and we try to rewrite their story, our own stories for them, essentially. And I hope that we're doing a good job. I think we can just cross our fingers and be like, I hope our kids understand money and that they're doing good.
You know, I think they have a great foundation with you and Justin as their parents. So I'm just really excited to continue to watch you grow, both in motherhood and in entrepreneurship. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being an ally of the community too, because I love y'all and how vocal you are about the shit that's wrong in the world. And I honestly do believe that parents, and especially mothers, we are the ones who are going to change the fucking world.
We are. We're doing it.
Absolutely.
Nothing exists without moms.
Okay. Facts. Mic drop. That's the episode highlight right there. Thank you so much for being here, Haley. Let us know where we can find you and how you work with your clients.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. If you are interested in connecting, we have a website. Janice, you're so proud of me. I have a website.
I'm here for this.
we didn't even have a website for the longest time. We have a website. It's priceofavocadotoast.com. And we are on all forms of social media at Price of Avocado Toast as well. And we work with our clients, our financial coaching clients, in a one-to-one capacity. And we also have a group coaching program that has a course and a community and everything. It's kind of like an all-inclusive shindig that we launched last fall that has been really awesome as well. That's called Empowered Money Academy. And it's our mission to just help people feel better with their money while also slaying all of your goals. So that's what we do. I hope to connect with some people from this show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Janice.